These are probably the most inexperienced miners we've ever helped. Their goal of 100 ounces is unobtainable the way they're running now.
The world stopped cold when Discovery Channel cut through its regular programming with an urgent midnight bulletin. No trailer, no warning, just a stark red banner flashing across the screen. Confirmed discovery. Hidden cache, unearthed. Within minutes, millions tuned in as the live feed lit up the Nevada desert. Floodlights blazed, shadows danced across rugged earth, and the air crackled with anticipation. At the center of the storm stood Freddy Dodge and Juan Ibarra, their expressions caught between disbelief and triumph. Beneath their boots, a steel hatch, long buried and forgotten, groaned as it was pried open for the first time in living memory. A robotic crawler lowered into the darkness, its high-powered beams slicing through centuries of silence. What it revealed was nothing short of staggering. Weathered stone walls lined with rusted chests, faint glimmers of gold pushing through cracked lids, and a sealed chamber that whispered of fortunes once thought lost forever. This isn't a rumor. This isn't speculation. This is history breaking wide open, live before your eyes. And if you don't want to miss a single twist in this once-in-a-lifetime saga, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications right now. It began like any other day in the Nevada desert. Freddy Dodge and Juan Ibarra were focused on the grind, running their machines, checking the pay dirt, and pushing forward in search of gold. But then, their instruments began to pulse with readings that made no sense. A low hum, a sharp anomaly, numbers spiking in ways no natural deposit should. At first, the men dismissed it as a glitch, the kind of interference every miner encounters sooner or later. Yet the readings persisted, growing stronger with every pass of the equipment. Something below the earth was calling out. Something unnatural, something crafted. The ground itself seemed to resist their efforts. Layers of rock appeared too uniform, too perfectly set, as if shaped by design. Each strike of the excavator revealed patterns that whispered of hidden architecture, not random geology. The air around the site grew tense, charged with a strange anticipation. What had begun as a routine dig was transforming into a puzzle, each clue drawing them closer to a secret the desert had guarded for generations. Then, the sound that changed everything, steel scraping against stone. The excavator's bucket dragged across a buried surface that rang with metallic resonance. The crew fell silent. Beneath the dust and rubble, the outline of a hatch began to emerge. It was old, impossibly old, its iron rivets corroded, but unmistakable. Freddy knelt down, running his hand across its surface, feeling the cold bite of metal that hadn't seen daylight in centuries. Questions swirled faster than answers. Was this a long-abandoned mining shaft, a forgotten storage vault from pioneers, or something far older, deliberately hidden away in the shifting sands? Juan glanced at Freddy, their expressions mirroring the same mixture of awe and dread. In that moment, they both understood. They were standing at the edge of something monumental. Caution ruled the next move. A robotic crawler was prepared and lowered through the narrow opening, its high-powered lights cutting through the void. Millions of viewers, watching live across the globe, held their breath as the feed sharpened into focus. The camera swept across jagged walls, dust dancing in the beams, silence pressing down with suffocating weight. And then, shapes emerged. Carved stone arches stood in the shadows, impossibly precise, their symmetry too perfect to be natural. Faint etchings lined the walls, patterns that looked less like cracks and more like deliberate inscriptions. The chamber was no accident of geology. It was built, crafted with a purpose that no one yet understood. Every second of the feed pulled the audience deeper, as if the desert itself was unveiling a chapter of history buried in secrecy. The crawler pressed forward, its wheels crunching across centuries of untouched debris. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves around the world. The light caught a stack of chests, their wooden frames warped with age, their metal bindings cracked and broken. From one fractured seam, a gleam spilled into the dark, a glint of gold, dulled by time, yet unmistakable. Coins tumbled out, clinking softly against stone, their sound carrying like thunder through the chamber. Freddy and Juan leaned over the monitors, their faces frozen in disbelief. $5 million, perhaps more, concealed beneath the Nevada desert all along. The air above ground erupted with shouts and gasps, the crew struggling to process what they had just witnessed. But beyond the treasure, there lingered a deeper mystery. Who had placed it here? Why was it hidden so carefully? And if this was only the beginning, what greater secrets still lay waiting in the shadows beyond the crawler's reach? This wasn't just a mining breakthrough. It was a moment that blurred the line between frontier legend and modern reality. And for Freddy and Juan, it was the beginning of a journey that could alter everything they thought they knew about the land beneath their feet. The ground shook as the excavator's bucket scraped against something far harder than stone. At first, the crew assumed it was just another buried boulder, hidden beneath centuries of soil and silence. But when the earth gave way, a glint, faint yet unmistakable, caught the floodlight. What emerged was no ordinary rock. It was a chest, heavy, iron-bound, and sealed so tightly that time itself seemed to have guarded its secrets. The air grew heavy, thick with anticipation. The chest was hoisted onto the surface, its wood blackened, its edges rusted with age. When the lid was forced open, the impossible spilled out. Gold bars stacked like bricks of eternity, their surfaces gleaming even after centuries underground. Coins poured in avalanches, Byzantine, Moorish, Spanish, each marked with symbols of forgotten empires, ornate goblets encrusted with emeralds, crucifixes glittering with sapphires, and crowns that once must have graced royal heads lay tangled in chaotic heaps. For a moment time stopped. Even hardened experts stood frozen, their voices trembling as they realized what they were witnessing. This was not just treasure. It was history made tangible. But just as the team began to celebrate, the twist revealed itself. Hidden beneath the pile of gold, at the very bottom of the chest, lay an object far stranger than wealth. A tattered scroll, its parchment cracked but still legible, sealed with wax that bore an insignia unknown to modern eyes. Its presence transformed the scene from one of fortune to one of mystery. For wealth could be explained, but this document hinted at something far more dangerous. The language, faded yet decipherable, spoke of a voyage, of secret vaults built in lands unexplored, and of riches meant never to be found. Experts immediately descended into debate. Could this be the lost treasure of Spanish explorers, concealed during their ruthless quests across uncharted frontiers? Or perhaps it was an outlaw's hoard, stashed away in desperate secrecy as lawmen closed in. Some whispered of hidden frontier fortunes, while others dared to suggest links to even older legends, conspiracies of ancient societies who buried knowledge alongside gold. Every possibility carried with it a darker implication. If this chest had survived undisturbed for centuries, what else remained hidden, waiting to be unearthed? Theories spiraled, but one truth became clear. The discovery was not merely about wealth. It was a breadcrumb trail leading into shadowy corridors of history where greed, conquest, and secrecy intertwined. The chest, with its glittering fortune, had become a doorway to questions no one expected to ask. And the scroll, its warnings and instructions, hinted at locations yet undiscovered, places that might still hold unimaginable fortunes, or perhaps something far more perilous. For if the Spanish crown had hidden this, if outlaws and adventurers had killed to keep it secret, then perhaps this was not the end of the story. Perhaps it was only the beginning. And as the experts leaned closer, one final line on the fragile parchment caught their eyes, a phrase written in hurried ink, smudged as if the writer feared he was being hunted even as he wrote, "The true vault lies deeper. Do not awaken what sleeps beneath. The chest may have revealed treasure, but the scroll had unlocked a mystery that could shake history itself. What lies beneath? What secret vaults wait in silence? And who buried them, knowing the world might not be ready for what they contain? The answers remain buried, for now. The first numbers were staggering. As the dust settled around the open chest, appraisers moved in, their gloved hands trembling as they lifted each artifact into the light. Early calculations placed the hoard's value at nearly $5 million, a sum that instantly captured headlines and ignited imaginations worldwide. Yet as the experts examined the cache more closely, it became clear this discovery was worth far more than its weight in gold. The coins alone were dazzling, a glittering timeline of vanished empires, Spanish doubloons stamped with royal crests, Moorish dinars etched with delicate calligraphy, Byzantine solidi still gleaming with the luster of 1,000 years. Each piece carried the story of conquest, trade, and power. Together, they formed not just a fortune, but a living museum, a record of human ambition cast in precious metal. Then there were the objects that defied appraisal. A chalice inlaid with emeralds so deep they seemed to glow from within. A golden crucifix crusted with sapphires that reflected the light like shards of frozen ocean. And most puzzling of all, the intricate craftsmanship that suggested these items were not simple spoils of war, but ceremonial artifacts, objects that once held sacred meaning. Their value, experts insisted, could not be measured in currency alone. What truly elevated the find, however, was its context. Treasure can be stolen, sold, and melted down. But a cache preserved in secrecy for centuries is a different story. This was not wealth meant to be spent. It was wealth meant to be hidden. And that fact hinted at powerful forces determined to keep it out of sight. Was it concealed by Spanish explorers, desperate to safeguard their plundered riches, or by frontiersmen and outlaws who buried their fortunes as they fled across unforgiving landscapes? Each theory carried with it a different narrative, each more dramatic than the last. Adding to the mystery was the scroll found beneath the glittering pile. Historians were quick to point out that documents like this often prove to be more valuable than the treasure itself. The fragile parchment bore a message, a map, perhaps even a warning. If genuine, it could reshape entire chapters of history, linking this chest not just to fortune, but to hidden networks of power, to lost expeditions, and to secrets that rulers once killed to protect. The $5 million estimate, then, was little more than a starting point. The real value lay in the unanswered questions, in the tantalizing possibility that this chest was merely a fragment of something larger. Every artifact whispered of another story, another secret waiting to be unearthed. For collectors, the cache represented untold riches. For historians, it was a priceless key to the past. And for those drawn by legend, It was evidence, perhaps the first tangible proof, that centuries-old rumors of hidden vaults and lost fortunes were not myths at all, but reality waiting to be uncovered. Yet even as the experts marveled, a chilling thought began to spread. If such a treasure had been buried so carefully, what had it been hidden from? And if this was merely the surface, what deeper mysteries lay beneath the soil, sealed away with deliberate intent? The $5 million estimate may have made headlines, but the true worth of this discovery could not be measured in gold or jewels. Its value lay in the questions it forced the world to ask. Questions that hinted at more vaults, more secrets, and perhaps even more dangers. And as whispers of new excavations began, one haunting line from the scroll lingered in the minds of all who had seen it. The true vault lies deeper. The numbers were impressive, yes, but the implications, they were incalculable. News of the discovery erupted like wildfire. Within hours, headlines blazed across every major network. Lost treasure unearthed, worth millions. Cameras swarmed the excavation site, and the once quiet dig transformed overnight into the center of a global storm. Reporters jostled for position, drones buzzed overhead, and live broadcasts carried the images of glittering gold and jeweled artifacts into living rooms from New York to Tokyo. The public reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Social media ignited with speculation, theories, and disbelief. Videos of the chest being hoisted from the earth replayed millions of times, each replay adding fuel to a frenzy that refused to die down. Some viewers saw it as proof that the old legends, the whispered tales of hidden fortunes and lost empires, had always been true. Others feared what such a find might unleash. Greed, looting, or even international conflict over ownership. But beyond the glitter of the treasure itself, what resonated most deeply was the story behind it. For centuries, humanity has been captivated by the idea of buried wealth, from the fabled treasures of El Dorado to the lost mines of the American frontier, from the wrecks of Spanish galleons to the hidden vaults of secret societies. Tales of fortune concealed and forgotten have shaped our collective imagination. This discovery was no longer just a local event. It was the embodiment of those timeless myths, suddenly made real. Experts were quick to draw parallels. Was this find the missing link to the infamous caches of Spanish explorers rumored to have vanished during their ruthless quests for conquest? Could it connect to outlaw legends, where bandits buried their fortunes under moonlight, never to return? Or was it evidence of something far older? Hidden riches passed down through generations, shielded from the eyes of kings, governments, and invaders alike. Each possibility carried echoes of the myths we grew up with, the stories told around firesides and in history books alike. The frenzy only deepened when the existence of the scroll was revealed. Unlike the gold, its value could not be measured by weight. It spoke of hidden vaults, of secrets yet to be unearthed. And that single revelation struck a chord across the globe. This was not the end of a story. It was only the beginning. The treasure was proof, yes, but the scroll was a promise that more lay, hidden, waiting for those bold or reckless enough to seek it out. Governments began issuing cautious statements. Archaeologists debated fiercely on live television. Some called it the greatest discovery of the century. Others warned it could trigger a new age of treasure hunting, one where priceless history might be destroyed in the pursuit of wealth. Ordinary people, meanwhile, were swept into the fever. Bookstores reported spikes in sales of treasure maps and pirate histories. Online forums buzzed with amateur theories, each person convinced They had uncovered the true meaning of the scroll. And yet, amid the excitement, darker questions loomed. Why had the treasure been buried so deliberately? What was so dangerous that someone chose to seal it away, never to be found? And if this was only one chest, how many more might lie hidden beneath the soil, beneath the sea, beneath the pages of history itself? The world had witnessed treasures before, sunken ships raised from the deep, tombs cracked open after millennia. But this was different. This was living proof that the myths were not just stories, they were blueprints. And the global shockwave that followed was not simply about riches, but about the unsettling realization that the past still guards secrets, and those secrets may be far greater and far more dangerous than we ever imagined. The cameras captured the gold, but what the world could not yet see was the shadow behind the glitter, the shadow of what might come next. The chest has been opened. The gold, the jewels, the priceless relics, each has been counted, studied, and locked away. And yet, despite the staggering wealth pulled from the earth, the greatest treasure may not be what was found, but the questions it leaves behind. Who buried this fortune so deliberately, sealing it beneath layers of soil and secrecy? Was it the desperate work of Spanish explorers, hiding their plunder from rival crowns? Could it have been outlaws on the run, burying riches they would never return to claim? Or does the answer lie deeper still, within hidden brotherhoods, forgotten societies, or lost civilizations whose secrets remain veiled in shadow? And why here? This quiet, unassuming ground has suddenly become the stage for a global mystery. Was it chosen for safety, far from prying eyes, or for another reason entirely? The scroll buried beneath the gold offers only fragments, a warning, a clue, perhaps even a map. If its words are true, then this chest is not an ending, but a beginning. Because if one cache like this exists, how many more lie waiting? In caves sealed with stone, in caverns deep beneath the sea, in forgotten chambers carved into the earth. Already this discovery has sent shockwaves across the globe, fueling debate, excitement, and fear in equal measure. But what comes next may reshape everything we thought we knew about history, exploration, and the myths that refuse to die. The journey ahead promises answers, but also dangers. Each step uncovers more questions, more secrets, and perhaps forces that were never meant to be awakened. The true vault, as the scroll warns, lies deeper, and as the world watches, the hunt has already begun. One thing is certain: this story is far from over. The chest may have been unearthed, but the real treasure, the truth, still waits to be found. And so, we leave you with the questions that now echo across history. Who hid it? Why here? And most importantly, is there more? Join us as we continue to follow this unfolding mystery, digging deeper into the shadows of the past, chasing legends that may prove real. The answers could be waiting in the very next discovery. This is only the beginning. If you want to be the first to know what lies beneath, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us as we uncover the secrets of history, one discovery at a time.